thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
It's my pleasure. It's kind of nice to get away from all of the hubbub over there.
Yeah, but not very far away, huh?
Well, we're pretty close.
So today, once again, and this is back on Wednesday when we're having this conversation, the House has killed another budget for a constitutional officer, this time the Attorney General, and this time no debate, no discussion. Nobody said why they were killing the Attorney General's budget. Previously, they killed the Secretary of State's budget, the Treasurer's budget, the higher ed budget. What is going on?
Well, each one has a separate story. Let's start with the higher ed. The higher ed budget was outside of the governor's recommendation. I know that that doesn't slow us down sometimes, but this year it did because the universities have frozen their tuition and have declared that there's this new day where we're going to quit digging our financial hole deeper at these institutions. And there was concern about the way the money was being used. It took money out of the, if you're a booster of CWI, I mean, you've been setting money aside for a new building there, and they don't have it all in place yet. So this took out some of that money, put it through another fund, and then from that fund addressed workload adjustment and occupancy costs.
But I understand that it did that only on a one-time basis, that's what JFAC wanted to do, was to do that as a one-time stopgap until these committees that are studying our higher ed funding formulas and how we fund higher ed come back with a better idea.
That's true, and guess who's on the committee? Me. And so I think that this is a way to break from the old and start with the new. All of the debate on the House floor centered around the needs at Lewis and Clark State College, and I think they made a compelling argument. And so I have proposed to them as they ask, well, what should we send back? I've proposed that they send back a clean budget that looks a lot like the governor's recommendation. And then if there are needs, an unmet needs by the old definition at LC, then to come with that as a trailer bill, and we'll address that separately.
What about the Attorney General's budget? Unlike the others, there wasn't even any talk. Boom, went down.
There was no talk because everyone knew that all agencies, including the legislative service, I mean, we have all participated in the reductions, the 1 and the 2, or the 1 and the 1, and the Secretary of State, the AG, chose not to do that, and so here we are.
So if we're talking about the need for a 2% reduction, a base reduction for next year, the Secretary of State's budget, for example, actually had a 29% cut in its funding for next year. How does that really
It'll all come out in the wash, and everybody is going to get their budget, and everyone will be able to perform their constitutional responsibilities, and before we leave, everyone will have a budget.
Okay. Well, speaking of budgeting, JFAC also approved $2 million right away from the general fund for coronavirus response.
Right.
That bill is moving quickly. It's already passed the Senate. And we also have additional funds coming from the federal government that will reimburse the general fund plus provide more. But are we doing enough?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know what this looks like. I want to resist, jumping on the panic wagon. Because I think there's an element of that out there, but I also do not want to diminish the threat, and because that is real, and so we just don't know. I think we want to be prepared. I think we want to err on the side of caution and be prepared. And if our fears are not realized, then we can always revert the money. But I think it's better to be safe in this area than sorry. And I think that we should all take, precautions. And if we feel sick, let's not be around other people. And just some of the things that we've been taught since grade school about how we, take care of ourselves, wash our hands, etc.
We have heard from legislative leaders, including yourself, that you're committed to ending this session by March 20th. But we've got budgets going down on the floor. We still haven't seen major proposals about property tax that were supposed to be addressed this session. Are we really on track to be adjourning in a week?
Well, yes and no. it depends. You've seen in your years here how fast things can move once there's agreement. But if there's not agreement, both the House and the Senate, then you see what you kind of feeling right at the moment is that it doesn't seem like it's quite ready. And I would agree, today it doesn't seem like it's quite ready. But we are anticipating an amended House bill with regard to the property tax coming back from the Senate. And I think that will be received, maybe albeit grudgingly, in the House, but I think that it will be well received. Yeah, because we sent over a freeze, and many of the House members knew that a freeze didn't necessarily work in parts of Idaho. You know, maybe 40 out of the 44 counties, maybe it was, you know, property taxes are not a front burner issue, certainly when compared to the Treasure Valley and other spots in the state. And so, but a freeze was sent over, arguably knowing that some type of a cap would be sent back. And of course, you've seen that they've amended it to a 4% cap. And I think that will, you know, and I haven't seen the bill and haven't gone through it, but just as it's advertised, I think that it will go through the House. But I'm certainly not obligating my colleagues to any type of a vote on that. But I think that, but all of this is in anticipation of addressing the real issue, which are these property taxes on homes is running out of control and at a rate that is not sustainable. And so I was talking to someone on the way over here, and I when we were talking about this very issue. And every anecdotal horror story that you have heard about how property taxes are running rampant in the Treasure Valley, every one of those budgets was okayed by a set of county commissioners or by a set of city councilmen. So the local budget setting process is also to blame here. Now, there'll be others that will say, well, there's all these unfunded mandates and these requirements that the state puts on the counties, and maybe to some point that is true. And maybe we need to revisit that with regards particularly in the criminal justice area. But every one of the horror stories was okay with a set of county commissioners or a set of city council members to let that budget proceed.
There's a state role here as well. For example, the circuit breaker property tax break for the low-income elderly hasn't been updated in years.
Well, that's true, and I think that that'll be one of the things that we'll do between now and the time we quit. And I'm not married hard. I'm, little secret, we've been saying March 20th. And we can make March 20th, but I am committed to seeing the job finished, and that includes we've got to address the homeowners exemption. That will provide immediate relief, or some relief. Now, but or in some cases, it may just stem the rate of growth in the property taxes you pay, because it is not a golden bullets don't work. Silver bullets don't work either, and this is neither. But it will slow the growth in that.
So speaking of silver bullets, have you found the one for funding Medicaid expansion? The governor made a funding proposal at the beginning of the session. The legislature still hasn't settled on it.
Well, we haven't settled on it because this is the outstanding issue. Is we're passing the budgets, and will be by the time this airs, we'll be passing the budgets on that include the offsets. So the savings that we get in certain budgets, because Medicaid is now expanded, frees up money to go to pay for the expansion, and so those will pass with the usual mix of ayes and nays, and but then that leaves a gap, and how do we treat that gap? The obligation of providing care for indigents falls on the counties' indigent funds and on the state's CAT funds. If the responsibility for providing indigent care has been removed from the counties, then we feel it's proper that we reduce the amount of dollars that we send out to the counties for that responsibility. And finding out how you allocate that reduction is where we're hung up right now who should do it, how should it be based on actual numbers, should it be based on population. The good news is that all of the predictions about caseload are coming in below projection. So the projections that the governor gave us in the State of the State, all of those ways are going to work. Now we just got to figure out how much to reduce the amount that we distribute to the counties for that responsibility. Again, and maybe we leave a little extra out there and let that turn into property tax relief from the counties.
Now, you carried a bill that's now going to voters as a constitutional amendment in the next election to
Yes.
fix the number of legislative districts at 35. Why is that the right number? And we have just a moment left.
Well, it's the right number because it's the number we're used to. Maybe 20 years from now, it's not the right number. But for now, see, the Constitution says no fewer than 30, no more than 35, yet we've always been at 35. And given how complicated it is to redraw all of the lines in the state and keep the courts happy and to keep the Supreme Court precedents happy, then we've got to be careful as we split counties and as we split communities of interest. Those are the hard lines that the court has given us. And I and others am concerned that a plan that has fewer districts will check those boxes better than a plan with 35.
So why not more?
Well, that's a great question. And the reason why we didn't bake in more is because there was not agreement on what more should look like and when do we determine when we need more and who's going to make that call. Is the legislature going to make that? Should the commission make that? And there was not agreement, so I said, fine. The bill I'll run just pegs it at 35. It's the devil we know. And it's important because these rural districts in Idaho, if we go to a smaller number, they're already large. They're 5 or 6 counties big. Mm-hmm. And if we reduce the number of districts, then those rural counties have to get larger geographically. And even your representation here in the Boise Valley, right now it's 1 to 48,000. We're anticipating going to 1 to 51 or 52,000 if we stay at 35. But if you go to 32, then it's 1 to pushing 60,000, and that dilutes our citizens' representation, and that's a net bad thing.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
It's always a pleasure.